Hey guys, this is Neil Holland with Big League Tips, and today we're going to talk about the slider grip, kind of the differences between a slider and a curveball, and also what feels comfortable for you and your age group to throw a slider over a curveball, or possibly even both. A few slider grips that we could talk about, where I kind of talk about the slider off of the curveball to talk about the different spins and why the grip would be different. So a curveball, which I've talked about in a previous video, where we would have our outside of our middle finger right here on that seam, right before the curve starts to happen, and the thumb would drop down this way. That usually gets you more of a 12-6 type of spin, where you start to see the rotation look very up to down and the ball looks very white. If we go to the very top of the seam, just like that, okay? Just the very top of the seam, where we would kind of throw our middle finger on the very top of the seam like this, and then still throw our thumb on the very bottom part of the seam like that. Usually if you turn that ball just a little bit of a 3/4 turn like that, it won't be so 12-6. It'll actually come out of your hand a lot faster than a curveball. It won't have as much drop to it compared to the curveball, but going from right to left will happen a lot more. And from a fastball to a curveball speed difference, what I talked about in the other video was about 10 to 12 miles an hour, and your slider should look like a fastball longer throughout the pitch to the hitter, and maybe only be about 6 to 8, maybe even 10 miles an hour different based on how you throw that ball. Usually a curveball is talked about at a younger age for that first pitch, just because we need a lot of speed to be generated for this slider, but it also depends on what feels comfortable. There's a lot of kids I have that I do teach a curveball grip, and it actually comes out as a slider spin. So whether you have a very high arm slot or even a 3/4 arm slot, opposed to totally turning your hand where your palm is facing your cheek for a curveball, we would still keep our hands behind the slider just a little bit longer, and we would just turn the ball turn our hand a little bit of a 3/4 action, where it still has that good speed like a fastball, just like this, okay? Coming out where we turn it like that, we make sure that we get a little bit more extension on the ball compared to the curveball, because we have to keep the ball a little bit lower because it won't have as much top spin going down on the ball. A good time to throw this is any kind of strikeout pitch, 0-2 or 1-2, and I do have a lot of older guys, high schoolers, college guys, that like to use it first pitch because it looks like a fastball coming in there, and then it has a little bit of break, and because it doesn't break as much as the curveball, it's sometimes a little bit more of an accurate pitch to throw. If we do happen to back the curveball up just a little bit and we release the ball out of our hand a little bit too soon, we could still sometimes get some strikeouts on that pitch, even if it gets backed up a little bit, because it'll still move. If you do back this pitch up and it comes out of your hand just a little bit too soon, it usually doesn't end up in a good spot. It usually ends up in the middle part of the plate, and it's just almost as fast as a fastball to where that can get hit. If you can get the extension on that pitch, start it in the middle part of the plate as a right-handed pitcher, and actually end it on the outside part of the plate to a righty, usually we get a lot more swing and misses on a slider, even more than a curveball, because it looks like a fastball even longer throughout that pitch. This is always the way that I throw my slider, like I've taught you. I have a lot of guys that almost use kind of a 2-seam grip, and they keep it on the side like this, and they have a little bit more of a turn with it. I even have guys that have very, very close to a curveball grip, what I've talked about in another video, and just try to keep their fingers behind it. This is a pitch where I'd love to hear a lot of feedback or any of the comments for the website, and also check out the digital coaching